I am coming on here today to show you ladies something that I have never actually done before and feels so vulnerable for me to show you. But for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Jen J, advanced holistic nutritionist and women's hormone health coach. And for those of you who don't know my story, I'll tell you really quick. But basically, I have struggled with endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome since the time I was 13. And it was over a decade and almost 15 years before I finally got solid diagnoses, by which point I was struggling so horribly that it was actually really, really difficult for me to enjoy life. I was making monthly trips to the hospital, passing out. I was in intense pain, dealing with all kinds of really, really nasty symptoms. Infertility was an issue at one point, and then adult acne, fatigue, brain fog, like the list was endless. It was really, really bad. And so sort of for me, that deciding factor of, where I was going to go with my life and in terms of, was I going to keep struggling with all of this and not get the solutions I was looking for versus, am I going to take control over it? Right. So that sort of the deciding factor for me was when I was standing in a hospital. I had arrived by ambulance, because I had passed out during the night, in the middle of the night. And the doctor basically looked at me in the state I was in, which was quite graphic, and told me that everything was normal, to go home and take a Tylenol. So I realized at that point that there was nobody that was really going to support me in my struggles, right? And that I really had to take some responsibility for it. So I did finally later on get some support from some doctors who were able to, at the very least, offer me some options. But the options for me just weren't something I was willing to do. At the time, I was 29, and the only option to me really at that time was medical menopause. And that wasn't really something I was ready to get into. So I didn't. And instead, what I did was I started looking for alternative options and alternative answers and ways that I could influence what my body does through my diet and my lifestyle. And it's incredible to say that I can't even believe how amazing, diet and lifestyle really can impact the body, because I don't struggle with all of those struggles anymore. Do I still have symptoms? Of course I do. Is it ever going to go away? No, but that would have been the same if I had taken the medical option. And so that journey has really, launched me into helping other women understand exactly how their diet and their lifestyle can influence their body and their hormones and help them have more hormonal release and relief from the symptoms that they experience. So specifically now I do help my clients have a healthier period, and have them have a better relationship with their body and their menstrual cycle, because I know for so many of us, it can be such a hindrance, right? We've got low energy, we've got mood swings, constant food cravings. Like the list is just insane, that the types of things that women deal with every single day. And the sad part of it is that it's so common that women actually believe that it's normal. And the truth is that it's not. Yes, your body will go through different hormonal changes, which can cause very common symptoms, but with the right support in your body, those symptoms can be a thing of the past. Okay. So what I wanted to come on here to show you guys today is that, living with endometriosis is a very difficult way to live. Periods are extremely painful. They're extremely heavy. They can be inconsistent at times. They can be unpredictable. You can have a lot of bloating and a lot of discomfort and a lot of mood swings. And so I thought I would show you all today what I keep in my toolbox to have a healthier period when I'm actually on my period. And I will tell you that the first day of my period is always the worst. I'm fortunate enough that it typically lasts about 5 days, but the first one is always the worst. Now, in saying that, it is much better, significantly, than it was 4 or 5 years ago when I was making monthly trips to the hospital because of it. Like the amount of blood loss that I was going through, the amount of pain that I was in, it was equivalent to childbirth. I actually think childbirth wasn't quite as bad, although I can't compare it fully because I did end up with a C-section. But, it's just the amount of relief that I've received is massive. So I thought I would show you all what I kind of keep in my toolbox for keeping my period healthier, or at least being able to get through that first day, which is always tough. Okay. So I'm going to start with this little goodie bag right here. And this feels so vulnerable for me to be sharing with you guys right now. It just feels like I'm like letting you into a very private part of my life right now. So bear with me here. I'm curious to know, while you're sitting here and I'm pulling stuff out, where are you plugging in from? Say hi in the chats there. And I'd love to know, did your period get in the way of your day-to-day life? Because there was a time where mine really, really did. And it was really quite embarrassing. So what I'm going to start off with is, I will say that I do get quite intense cramping and pain in my stomach, in my back, and even in my legs in that first 24-hour period. So one thing that I always have on hand, and I have to thank my husband for this because he actually gifted me this, he's so thoughtful, is a heating pad. Now this heating pad is actually really cool because it's battery operated, that you can charge through USB. And the cool thing is it actually charges with the same USB that my cell phone charges. So I can easily switch the two off if I find myself bedridden at any time. But this is really, really great because it's very discreet. So when I wear it, I can actually wear it under, say, like a sweater, and you wouldn't really notice that I was wearing it. And so I could go out and do a lot of my day-to-day activities and not really be noticed that I'm wearing a heating pad. But at the very least, it's great for when you're at home because that heat really does relax the muscles and those uterine contractions that cause those muscle cramps and pains in order for it to be more bearable. So this I definitely live with for the first 24 hours of my period. I probably charge it 2 times in that 24 hours, maybe 3. Depending on how intense my cramps are, but this will last several hours. And typically I like to be warm all the time. So typically I'll actually wear it even past my cramping stage. So even if it does, like, it'll help alleviate my cramps, but I'll keep wearing it anyways, just because I like the comfort aspect of it. And because if I like the idea that if my muscles stay relaxed, I'm less likely to have, those pains come back. So this is definitely something I strongly recommend for you. You can see here, let me see if I can find a brand name for you. I don't even know what's, no clue. Anyways, we got this off of Amazon, I believe. So I'm sure you can find something there, but it's really great. I'll just turn it really quick for you. You can see this actually has 3 settings, 3 heat settings. So when you turn it on, it's got little buttons there that indicate that it's on and powered up, as well as how much charge is left. And then the button here, the power button, press and hold, and the red, I think you can see that there, that indicates the strongest heat setting. Push it one more time and you've got green, and that is like a medium heat setting. And then one more time, sorry, it was a blue and now a green. And that's its lowest heat setting. And I love, love, love this. I find that I will sometimes strap it to my stomach if that's where most of my cramping's happening. Or I will turn it around for my back if I've got a lot more cramping in there. I sometimes also take it off and do wrap it around like my upper thighs, where I tend to get a lot of pain. And that's quite common in endometriosis, to have a lot of shooting pains in your legs during your menstrual cycle. So that is like the first thing that I always recommend. Number 2, a glass of water, right? So when our muscles are dehydrated, they tend to be more susceptible to pain. So we want to make sure we stay really well hydrated, and especially in those first, 24, 48 hours where we're going through the most intense part of our cycle. So having some water on hand is really great to keep yourself well hydrated. Okay. Now the next thing I keep would be these right here. So this is 3 types of tea, and that's because I find that I get quite nauseous if the pain level is very high, and so I really like to mitigate that nausea with some tea. So really great options for tea when you're dealing with nausea would be things like mint or ginger. They're really, really calming and soothing for the stomach. So I keep this one, the mint refresher. And then I also keep feeling soothed on hand. Okay. Now, the cool thing is, of course, you can always just boil some water and put fresh ginger in that, which I do that as well. The reason I like to use these 3 is because peppermint and fennel, which is in these ones here, Dreamland and Feeling Soothed, can help inhibit prostaglandins, which are basically what is relaxing your muscles and causing them to contract. And when we have too many prostaglandins going through our body at one time, that's where we have this overstimulation of nerve endings that actually increases the amount of pain that you are feeling or that you perceive. All right. So I really love fennel for helping to lower that prostaglandin level in my body. And I actually find that it works within about an hour, which is, almost equivalent to the same as taking an Advil at the time, right? I find for me, if I'm taking any medications, it does take, upward of an hour for it to actually kick in for me. And so if I might as well try it this way first and save my stomach and my body that invasive form of treatment. So I really love these. Now, the reason I keep these two, which are different flavors, is that, so this one's Feeling Soothed, and this one is ginger root, lemongrass, peppermint, fennel, seeds, and chicory root. So I really love this one for the daytime. I just find it keeps me energized at the same time. Like that ginger is really great for helping me feel energized as well as calming that nausea. But this one here, if I ever find that my period starts during the night and the cramping is really intense, I really love this one for that. Okay, so the Dreamland, and that's because it also contains chamomile. So chamomile is really calming and soothing, helps the body go to sleep, but as well, chamomile is also really great for inhibiting prostaglandin release. So these three are really, really great tea options, and you can get them in any brand, or even just look for, straight chamomile, straight peppermint, straight ginger, and straight fennel, because they're really, really great options. So there's those that I absolutely love. The next thing I love to nourish myself with during the day, because when we are menstruating, like actively bleeding, we do lose a lot of iron source, we lose a lot of zinc, and we also lose a lot of minerals in that process. So I really, really love to nourish myself with soothing foods during this time. And that would include a really simple miso soup. And I love that because it's warm, it's soothing, it's delicious. The seaweed is loaded with minerals that help rebuild that mineral balance that we're losing during this active bleeding time. Your other option, of course, would be things like bone broth if you're not eating a plant-based diet. I am, so I opt for this instead. And I really, really do just find it so, so, so tasty. Now, the next thing that I keep in my little goodie bag here, you can see, is this right here. So this is one of my favorite plant-based protein powders. I particularly love it because sometimes when I'm in a lot of pain, it's actually really difficult for me to eat a lot of food, particularly if I'm dealing with some endometriosis growths or bloating, then I don't really feel all that hungry. And so it's easier for me to sometimes just drink a really basic shake to at least get those nutrients in. And because this one is all whole food plant-based, I know that it's going to feed me with a lot of good nutrients that are going to help my body stay fueled so that I'm avoiding that energy crash, avoiding that nausea that sometimes kicks in. And I'm also avoiding some of those cravings because it is full of that good fiber. So it's going to help stabilize my blood sugar levels. The other two reasons I really love this: one, it's chocolate. Who doesn't want chocolate when they're on their period? Hello, yes, please, right? But the other reason is that one serving of this actually contains about 40% of your daily requirements of calcium, all from a plant-based source, as well as about 20% of your vitamin D requirements, again, also from a plant-based source. Now, calcium and vitamin D, as well as magnesium, are really great for helping ease muscle contractions. So if you are having a very painful period, ensuring that you're getting a lot of those types of nutrients can really help combat some of that. So this really does serve a really, really well-rounded purpose in my toolkit, like my period box. So I like to have that on hand. The next thing I like to keep on hand if I'm feeling like I need capsules is just my vegan omegas. So omega-3 fatty acids are really, really great for lowering inflammation that induces pain. And so if I'm feeling like I am in quite a bit of pain or going through a lot of painful inflammation. Sometimes I can tell my inflammation just by the amount of bloating that I have. For those of you just logging in, you can see them here. Then I'll usually take a couple, like an extra 1 or 2 of those in my day. Otherwise, I actually eat these like daily all month long in order to help lower that systemic inflammation that I experience. And that has actually, within a 4-month period of me starting these little babies, actually reduced my pain levels so significantly that I was no longer making monthly trips to the hospital. So that was a really, really big contributing factor for me in starting to actually regain more control over my period. So I'll leave that one there. If you are curious about where to access any of these goodies that I keep in my toolbox here, let me know in the comments and I can send you links to the ones exactly that I have or ones that I would recommend specifically. The next couple of things that I keep here, and this is where it gets like super vulnerable for me. So for those of you just showing up, I'm actually just diving through my period bag here. The next 2 things I keep on hand are a menstrual cup. So I'm just going to show you this one. I don't use this one, but I do use another one. So if you're not using menstrual cups, I really do love them, actually. They contain way less endocrine disrupting chemicals than your standard disposable hygiene products. So I really like them for that. And of course, there's so many different styles and shapes and brands that you can try out so that you can get one that really fits well. And I love this because I can actually monitor how much I'm bleeding, so I can compare month to month whether or not I have any changes in my period that need to be addressed. So that's one thing I really love, but I don't actually wear those in the first 24 hours of my period, typically because my muscle cramping is so intense that it's just not comfortable. And I tend to fill those several times in a 24-hour period that it's just not feasible. Instead, what I use are actually just reusable pads. So they're cloth pads. You can find these on Amazon and all kinds of different websites. Mama Cloth is another really great one. And I just find they're just a little bit more comfortable for me during that first 24 hours where I'm a little bit less comfortable than I would be, say, towards the end of my period. Now, the reason I keep it all in this here is that this here is actually what's referred to as a wet bag. So if you're a mother and you did cloth diapering with your children, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. And if you didn't, that's okay. So if you're ever on the go and you're wearing a reusable pad, a cloth pad of any kind, having a wet bag on hand is really handy, because if you change your pad while you're on the go, you can actually put it into that bag, zip it up, and you're not going to have a mess in your purse. Right? So nobody's going to know what you've got there. Same thing as if you were traveling with your child and they were wearing cloth diapers. So it's just like that, right? And this folds up so discreetly that you could keep that in your purse clean, and nobody would really know that that's there. And there's all kinds of different shapes and sizes and thicknesses, so you can definitely find ones that work for you. And those are typically for me just in that first 24 hours period, as I'm going through a lot of that intense cramping. And then I switch over to my menstrual cup, which I love. And then the very last thing that I keep in my goodie bag but don't typically use, or I try really hard not to, and usually I'm quite lucky that the combination of my heating pad and my amazing teas allows me to avoid keeping any Advil on hand. But I do keep that in my toolbox just in case. There was a time for me where over-the-counter medications were not actually helpful for me at all. The amount of pain and inflammation and cramping and bleeding that I was going through was not or was too much for any over-the-counter medication to handle. And I did end up being prescribed 2 different pain medications in order to help manage the amount of bleeding and pain that I was going through without success. So the fact that I'm actually able to now manage all of this and feel good and be up moving around, as opposed to bedridden all day and passed out like I used to be, is really, really quite a huge improvement. So there you have it. That was literally like my entire period toolbox kit that I keep every month. So that plus my water, plus my nourishing, mineral-rich soup. Okay. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. This was like a super detailed and really invasive part of my life here to share with you. But I wanted you to know that, you can actually have a life that doesn't revolve around your period, or where your period doesn't dictate what happens to you in your life, which was not the case for me, many years ago when I was dealing with all of this. So there is a better side to the burdens of being a woman. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So if you have questions about what that could look like for you, maybe your period is kind of getting in the way of you being able to enjoy life or have a good quality life, let me know in the comments. You're also welcome to private message me if you're watching me here on Facebook, or if you're watching me on YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, and send me a message through my website, or just email me directly from the website. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, if not a little bit invasive, but I hope it just kind of opened your eyes to see that there are options available to you, and that, some of those natural and holistic options really can be helpful, particularly when combined with more long-term sustainable approaches, with a systemic approach in your day-to-day, month-to-month, week-to-week, month-to-month approach in the way that you eat and treat your body every single day. So thank you all so much for watching. Have yourselves all a great day. Bye, everybody.